We have all come together. Don't notice. When I say all, I would like to recognize the many Rabbanim, Rosh Yeshiva, Rosh Meisters, who came together to give the Kavod Achron. The Isha Sarafega, Basar Shlomo Loza, Allah Shalom, the Bottom L'chaim L'chaim, the Isha's Chaver, the Agut Yedid, Nechem HaKoyen, Salut Regenstein. Shlomo HaMelech says, Shema B'ni Musar Avicha, my son, you should listen, you should hearken to the Musar of your father, Bal Titois, and don't turn away, he refers to the father, Musar Avicha, and he refers to the mother, Torah Simecha. When we grow up, we're accustomed that you learn Torah from your father, you learn Torah from your Rebbe. But Shlomo HaMelech is machadish to us that there's a Torah that you learn from your mother. And we would like to, Shtel Zechab, we would like to elaborate on that a little bit. The Isha Shuva, Sarafega, known as Frida, was some woman. Some woman. And every period of her life is a Torah in and of itself. And especially today, in our times, when so much is made about the man's world, and how women have a glass ceiling, they can't reach their potential. There's so much to learn from this woman, and what she did, and what she accomplished, and what she meant, and how many worlds she built. That's besides being the partner of life. Yibodel L'chaim L'chaim, Reb Nechemia should live and be well for many, many more years. Starting out as a child, growing up in Europe, she had a very good, close relationship with her parents. And she was, as we found out later on, a very capable woman. And even at the young age of 10 years old, 12 years old, she would help out her father, who was a flour business, a miller, and go and do business at that age. But that was only the beginning. She was transported to Auschwitz like many, many other young girls. Imagine that. It's hard to imagine. She went, and she was there with a younger sister, a year younger than her. She lost both her parents. Both her parents, two young girls in Auschwitz, as the expression goes, Hakaikote Yesoimus, in a world, a beastly world. And she had this positive, optimistic attitude, the will to live, the drive, which she got from her family, and she kept it throughout the war with Mesiras Nefesh. But it wasn't Mesiras Nefesh, it was Mesiras Nefashos. She took upon herself never to leave her younger sister go. And she helped the younger sister, who was weaker than her, to survive, and they both survived the war. Just right there, think about how many nefashos, how many neshamas, how many people, how many families, how many children, how many grandchildren, how many great-grandchildren are attributed to that positive, optimistic drive to live. After the war, and this is another unbelievable story. If you think about what you just survived, the word survive is a book in of itself, is a Torah in of itself. Here comes the next Chumash. She was sick. She was sick. And she was put in a sanatorium. Now, you're not talking about a hospital like they have in the United States. You're talking about a sanatorium after the war. A Yesoima, a helpless Yesoima. And she was there for about a year, at least. But after about a year, as you can well imagine, the Galochen make their rounds to find Yiddish kinder, to find Yesoimim and Yesoimois, and how they can expand and do what they think is their best job. And they came into this room, and there were other girls there too, and she was there lying in bed, weak and sick, and this Galach was doing his thing. And as weak and as sick as she was, she propped herself up in bed and told him, "Excuse me, we survived the war because we're Jewish, we're Yidden. We have no need for you. And we're not going to listen to anything you tell us. Please leave." You know what kind of gevura, you know what kind of inner strength, you know what kind of conviction that is? You're talking about, again, compared to our times, someone that did not have a formal education. The best education was in Auschwitz. The education really was her Torah Simecha, her Musar Avicha. And she survived that too. She made her mark. She made her mark. And after the war, when she married Rabbi Nehemiah, he used to live and be well, you can well imagine, like many other survivors, they had nothing. And just to eke out a living was a big deal. They didn't have all the opportunities that we have today or the people that we know. And think about this, the next Torah. We all know Rabbi Nehemiah. It's very hard to find a kinder, nicer, good, giving person than Rabbi Nehemiah. But let me tell you about the spark plug. Rabbi Nehemiah is the engine. I'll tell you about the spark plug. They had a wonderful marriage, tremendous marriage. I don't have to tell you more than being with your wife in the business in the same place every single day. That says worlds. But that again is also only the beginning. She was the bookkeeper. She was the bookkeeper until the computers outdated her, which many of us know what that means. She was the bookkeeper every single day. It means to say she knew his stockers, she knew the profit and loss, she knew everything. And think about how many people hide their stockers from their wives. Not Rabbi Nehemiah and not Frida. They were more than partners. She would be the one to tell them, give more, give more. She would always say, give more. Whether it was stockers, or the children, or the Einiklach, or the Ur-Einiklach. She was the spark plug. That's the Torah Simcha. When you look at all the Moises HaTorah, the girls' schools, the private stockers, all the Yesoimim, all the Yesoimas, all the Almonas, and you think about what she did and what they did together, but more importantly, and this goes back to the Torah Simecha. In the Simecha, as we just described, is a good wife, an Eza Kenegdoi, the Chochmas Nosham Bonsa Beisa. It's a good mother, it's a good grandmother, good great-grandmother. To have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, when other people are talking about a generational gap, they can't relate, and there's someplace else, up until her last illness, she was very active. And her children, grandchildren, great-children, grandchildren loved her. They loved spending time with her. She's going to be very much missed. She'll be missed by her husband, by children, by grandchildren, great-grandchildren, Klal Yisrael. but the legacy that they both leave over, the legacy of this week's Parsha, Ish es Kadosha Lo Yeh, she's taking along, where is she taking along? She's taking along so much, the Kadoshim. The Kadoshim Tatem Ashma. She was a befitting Zikoram for her parents, for all the other ones she lost in the war. And the Kadoshim that stuck us, the Moistus, Lo Yeh, all this is going along with her. I'd like to call upon our vendor, the Rosh Hashiva, Yeshiv Dachi Torah, to say a few words.